There we go.
We might have actually just recorded a podcast, but we didn't turn the sound on. Mind the details.
Mic on. Check.
Mic on.
Hi, this is Mark Thomas from Impact Consulting with Marty Lewis from Orb Services, bringing to you the business. Say hello to our listeners and give them a flavour of what's to come.
G'day everybody, we're happy to be here. Mark, thanks for having me. First time podcasting, quite exciting. So we'll see how this plays out. Got a range of topics to cover, from first and foremost establishing your cash position, looking at what you can do with your staff, looking at what opportunities exist for you to diversify and change the way you do your products, as well as looking at how you can minimize and mitigate the costs and your ongoing expenses in detail. So checking out all of these things and seeing what we can come up with, trying to help everybody get through this time and come out on the other side.
Awesome, thanks Marty. It's been a bit of a crazy time, and obviously business owners are struggling with working out their needs now and a changing environment going forward. Where should business owners really be starting?
First place that I recommend for everybody is 100% your numbers. And what I mean by that to start with is establishing your cash position so that you can work out what your worst case scenarios are and best case scenarios. There's a big difference between thinking you're in trouble and knowing exactly what you're at. You need to know, you can't let, emotion's going to be part of these decisions, but you have to you have to have the numbers to guide you. So in order of establishing your cash position, what I'm talking about there is going, first and foremost, how much money do you have in the bank? What have you got in accounts receivable? Because that's money that you should expect to have. And if you have a big outstanding accounts receivable, I'll be getting onto that immediately. But then once you go, okay, well, that's how much money you can expect to come in. What have you got accounts payable going out? And then if you toss on the end of that, what could you liquidate really fast? You might have a vehicle, could be some equipment, whatever you could put your hands on to turn into cash very quick, to give yourself an actual number to say, this is our cash position, and then you've got something to work with and help guide decisions moving forward from there.
Yeah, no, that's really important. Get an idea of how long you'd last without any sales, how long your business would last. Thanks, Marty. There's some really good tips in there. Now, one of the things we've talked about many times is assessing the market, because obviously the market's changed. So what does that mean as far as the next step?
Once you know where you're at cash-wise, so obviously setting up that cash position is one thing, and then we know operational costs, we can work out how long we're going to burn from. Then we want to go, okay, what's happening in the market? Are your customers still buying? Now, you specialize in this area of working with your customers, making sure you're understanding your customers' needs. The first place to go back to is customers. Who are your existing customers? What pain are they feeling? How are they going? Are they going to be there next month? Have I missed anything there? What sort of things do you think you could add on to that? I've got a few different ideas around what we do.
I think it's about having that open and honest conversation with your customers and saying, look, like obviously you're going to be feeling some pain now and into the future. Where are you at? Where do you see? Are you still buying? How, is your business going to survive this? Do you think?
Yeah.
And then you'll get a much better idea of what your accounts receivable looks like too, right?
100%. So kill a couple of birds with one stone. Other things that I have in terms of assessing the market is looking a little bit broader and starting to understand what's happening in your industry. Because if you're feeling pain or you're doing really well, whichever situation you're in, chances are your industry is going to be feeling collectively the same. So looking at, okay, what opportunities exist there if people are not buying? What opportunities exist if people are buying? Depending on your financial position, are there opportunities for you to pick up resources such as clients, staff? Everybody struggles to find good staff. If you're one of those people who are in a very fortunate and positive cash position, maybe now is the time to increase some talent because they're being let go from other businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely right. And from a sales perspective, more than ever now is really important to talk to your customers and know your market. It's always important in business, but it's particularly important right now. So what else can we be doing, Marty?
Minimizing your costs is going to be one of the things that everybody is looking at. Now I'm going to get into staff as its own sort of topic, but we're in unprecedented times in terms of what's going on, how widespread this is, how fast it has happened. I spoke to somebody recently who had lost $400,000 worth of incoming jobs, had disappeared in 10 days. This is unheard of and uncharted. So, like I said, know your cash position, know what your outgoings are. How can we minimize those outgoings? Don't go to staff as your very first one. Staff can be, yes, your big expense, but they're also what you need to keep yourself alive for the next 6, 3, 12 months and ongoing and beyond if you want to come out the other side of it. So a couple of big ones that I would look at in terms of your outgoing expenses are insurances. Can you renegotiate any insurances? Your rent. Now you may say that you're in a lease and it's fixed and all the rest of it, but again, it's unprecedented times. You mentioned it before. Have an open and honest conversation with your landlord. Hey, I can't afford to pay the $3, $5, $10, $50,000 a month in rent you pay right now. Would you rather take a discount? Can we work something out? Because they may be able to afford taking a discount on that, which would then allow you to keep staff, do other bits and pieces, and maintain your operations. I just put it out there that nothing is off the table at the moment. It's confronting to have to ask these kind of things. Let's not forget what that feels like and not to underestimate that or understate that, but nothing is off the table at the moment. You don't know the situation that your landlord's in. If they lose you as a tenant, that could be much worse for them than taking a 10 to 20% pay cut on their rent.
Absolutely. I guess it's about preparing for that conversation and making sure you approach the conversation in the right way. And making having a bit of empathy about the other person's position. Your landlord may not be at all worried and therefore perhaps less flexible with the rent, but it's definitely worth trying. In these unprecedented times, everybody's going to be taking a haircut.
Hey, the age-old question, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. Have a bit, like I said, you got to put it out there and find out for sure. They may not, but you're definitely not going to be a worse position for asking the question. The other big thing that I'll be looking at is subscriptions. So particularly if you've got a lot of staff, you may be carrying subscriptions that you don't need that come at a hefty fee. And your principal, like if you are paying off debt, if you're paying off principal and interest, potentially just trading that back to interest only, maybe renegotiating, talk to any kind of broker. They're going to be able to put you in touch with the latest and cheapest forms of finance to make sure that you're keeping your head above water as best you can.
Just one thing on subscriptions. It's a really good point, Marty. Is going through your subscriptions and see which ones that you can live without, and turn off the auto renew.
Auto renew is one of the greatest hacks. Whoever came up with auto renew has certainly made their money's worth a few times over, because I've definitely been stung myself. Look, we're all guilty. We get into the busyness of day-to-day life, and we don't track these things as vigilantly as we should. And now is going to force that happening. So start to look through your statements and reconcile things.
Absolutely. So you mentioned before that staff tends to be the first thing people look at cutting costs, but there needs to be a critical mass of staff to still deliver what you do. What else? What can you do to keep your team strong and motivated? And how do you negotiate with staff if any changes need to happen?
Yeah. Well, I feel like a little bit of a broken record here, but we're coming back to an open and honest conversation. Your staff are naive at best, ignorant at worst, if they think that everything's rosy and things are going fantastic. So from a salaried staff point of view, can anybody afford to take a pay cut during this time? As directors, obviously, the money that you're pulling out as directors, that's going to be one of the first things that you see go. You're in a position of survive, not thrive. This is going to have very, very widespread effects, and there are going to be very, very few industries who do really well during this time, and the vast majority are not going to do so well. So nothing is off the table. first things, salaried staff, looking at what can you do to reduce costs there. If staff have leave entitlements, can staff take leave immediately in terms of taking that? But you have to know as well, what do you need to operate? What's your minimum operating numbers? You know, now has never been more prominent to operate efficiently and effectively. You have to be able to get the best out of everybody. It's a great time to rip into those projects if you can afford to keep your staff on. And having a negotiation with your staff to say, what do they need personally? What can you achieve for them from the business, and how can you make all of that work together?
That's a really good tip, and some of those conversations can be difficult, but again, if you prepare for the conversation properly and apply a bit of empathy before you start the conversation, then your results are often much better.
And people are going to respect. These are the type of conversations that how you have them is the difference between people walking away and respecting you, maybe still walking away being frustrated and uncomfortable and angry initially, but when the blood temperature comes down, people will still respect you if you go about it in the right way. So it's not panicking, it's calm, it's calculated, and it's understanding their situation as well as showcasing yours.
Sure. Now, the other thing that we've talked a fair bit about, Marty, is diversifying not necessarily what you do, but what you do with your staff. So your staff may have been waiting tables before. Maybe they can now do more of a home delivery service. You know, in what ways can businesses now really kind of refocus their business to new types of customers and using their staff in new ways?
Yeah, I have seen, this is the piece that people are going to immediately, and that I see from social media, where everybody, you know, on LinkedIn is saying, hey, diversify, pivot, do this. That's all well and good if there's a customer to buy what it is you have to sell. So that's why I put this piece, or when we just talked about this, this piece comes in the last. But yes, looking at how can you deliver what you do in a new way.
There's a disclaimer here, Marty, I need to put in here. You do all of the other steps first, right? You sort out all of the other steps we've talked about before you diversify.
Always streamline, always amplify, then diversify. But yeah, there could be necessities of other rule inventions. This could create a great opportunity for you to deliver your service in a new way. If you can deliver it online, if you can deliver it in groups instead of one-to-one, if you can deliver it via an educational, you know, some of the things that I personally am thinking about is how can I put out like a program or a self-work through kind of book, that kind of thing. That's all well and good if somebody is there to buy it. You've got to make sure that somebody in that position first. So, and it comes down to the same questions as always. Who are your customers? What sort of scenarios are they in? What are they feeling? What are they doing? And how can you add value to them? Because if you can add value to them in a different way, you're on and you've got a chance.
And business should be about solving your customers' problems always, and this is no different, right? It's just that your customers' problems have changed, and now you need to have open conversations with them about how they change.
Yep. And it's a different scenario, but the same question is that.
Absolutely. So that brings us to the end of this podcast. We hope you found it helpful, and having listened to this, if you want either to hear more or want to talk to us further about that, then you can contact myself, Mark Thomas, at empact.com.au, or Marty.
Best contacts for me, if you Marty Lewis, or you find me on LinkedIn, orb.services, just orb.services is my website. You'll find everything that you need on there, or track me down on LinkedIn. Happy to have a conversation with anybody and discuss the specifics of your situation and how you're going to get through this and see you on the other side.
Well, thank you very much, Marty, for joining us, and I'd just say to everybody, stay focused and stay safe. Thank you.
Golden.